We own that. We own that. The only way to pick up is to get your funky jazz down. Only way to pick up is to get your funky jazz down. We own that. We own that. We own that. We own that. The only way to pick up.
It's Matty and Patty, coast to coast from San Francisco. We have Matt Youngner. Say hello, Matty.
Hey, Patty. How you doing, buddy?
I am pretty damn good. And from Brooklyn, I'm Pat McMenamin. Thanks to his podium game last night, Shump has earned the unsolicited honor of introducing episode 2 of the Matty and Patty podcast with his playoff anthem, The Offs, which I discovered earlier this week in a blog that was totally ripping on the Cavs and ripping on Iman Shumpert. Sorry, excuse me, Iman Shumpert. It's one of those blocks I have, Matt. I constantly say Iman. Why would I say Iman?
Iman?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I literally have it written down in my notes here, Iman. Like, I know it's Iman, but I say it everywhere. It's like what I used to say, vehement.
Yeah, this is one of the things that makes you lovable, Pat.
I have these blocks. I don't know what it is. Anyway.
I got to say, that joint is tight. That joint is tight, Pat.
I was just about to say, Matt, that hook is incredibly sick. The actual rap that follows from the opening hook is, I refuse to say anything negative about Shump because I love him. So that's why I didn't play it, and I'm not going to. But that intro hook,
I will say a callback to our last conversation when I talked about Iman Shumpert being upset with the show Empire for stealing his life.
Oh, yeah?
I did some research since then and have watched 3 episodes of Empire, and I think he's got a case.
You think he has a case?
I think he's got a case.
Really?
No, he doesn't really have a case. It's absurd, of course.
Oh, man, I was excited.
and frankly, the character, I'm pretty sure who he thinks they stole from him, I don't like. He's a pretty weak guy. I wouldn't
want that to be the guy that's stealing from me, right? Yeah.
No. So I'll watch more and have an updated a later podcast.
Awesome. So by way of introduction, by the way, we'll paste a link to that song and any other songs we play so you guys can listen to them if you don't know what we're talking about in the comment section on our YouTube page or SoundCloud page, wherever we post this. By way of introduction, once again, we are a pair of unapologetic Cleveland fans, born and raised, who spend far too much time following the Cavs. So we are homers, yes, but we are homers with brains and eyes. Now, the Tribe has won 4 in a row, and that is just super. But ain't nobody got time for that. We're talking nothing about the Cavs because they just seized a commanding lead last night in the Eastern Conference Finals, going up 2-0 on the road with a dominant defensive performance. Matt, dominant doesn't quite feel sufficiently descriptive of what happened. Can I call this the Ender's Game?
Whoa.
Little nerd alert, Ender's Game, which you may know is a science fiction film, based on a novel by Orson Scott Card, where the strategy is not just to win the fight, but to win in a way that you win all future fights. That remains to be seen.
I don't think we've reached Xenocide levels yet.
I don't mean Xenocide. Early in that book, he has a kid beaten, but he keeps going. And they said, why did you hit him while he was down? He's like, I wanted to win all the future fights, not just this fight. So
That's true.
So I wouldn't have to fight him again. Now, the Hawks.
And Pat, late breaking since the podcast started, Korver has been deemed out for the playoffs.
Get the hell out! Seriously.
Yeah, so that may be true.
Ooh, that changes a lot. That's brutal. That sucks, man. Let me just we're not even into our podcast yet, but I just feel like I have to say, I hate all the injuries. All the injuries to every team in the playoffs is just so annoing.
It's been especially bad this year.
It's been terrible. This is crazy. And I don't think there's anything that's special going on. It's just bad luck. But, yeah. I mean, obviously the Cavs. We know how bad the Cavs are banged up. But, look, I will take this. We'll take advantage of it. However we get the finals, but it just stinks. Yeah. I want to play against. I want to beat. I feel like we could beat the full Hawks, and I want to be able to play the full Hawks. And I want Korver to. Korver's had a great year. I wanted to do well. Although we'll get to any kind of hateability he has. This is going to hurt the kill list, Matty.
Oh, badly damages the kill list.
Anyway, regardless, it's 2-0. It's not 4-0. The sweep remains to be seen. The Hawks are still missing a ton of open shots that they hit in the regular. More about that as we get further on. But we're all getting ahead of ourselves. Let's just start at the beginning with the kill list. Again, quickly what the kill list is, and let me know. I mean, has anyone on the Hawks cracked the list yet?
I don't think so.
I don't think
it's tough in games where you win like this, and they were pretty. Besides the LeBron nonsense ISO stuff that we'll talk about later,
but Matt,
pretty dominant performances here.
Matt, recap quickly, just for anyone who missed the first podcast. What's the kill list?
So I find in almost any playoff series, you begin to hate an opponent so much that certain players on the other team can rise to the level where you look at yourself and say, if there were no consequences, I think I would murder this person.
Every time you explain that, it makes me laugh.
and in the last series, several players met that standard. I think for a variety of reasons, the players on the Hawks are in general less objectionable than a lot of the Bulls players are and were. The Cavs have really dominated this, and it's hard to get your anger up when you're so completely dominating a team. So, I think for somebody to really get – and nobody's gotten there for me yet. Teague was a little close in the first game. Bazemore started to act up a little yesterday. Mm-hmm. Then he got shut down on that TT block.
You mean foul, Matt? That was a foul.
Excuse me. That foul. Schroeder, as some of our listeners pointed out, we maybe didn't give enough attention to. He's got a little – so weird looking. It's really like Rajon Rondo put on a wig and like an evil wig and came out to play us. He looks like a Bond villain a little bit, but nobody has done anything, even Piroantic, that flagrant foul that wasn't so flagrant. Nobody's there
tough.
yet.
No. There's a couple players are reaching the annoyance levels, irritation. But they say familiarity breeds contempt, but I think also losing breeds contempt, and we haven't lost, so it's hard to hate anybody yet.
That's absolutely true. I think we have to see, especially now with Korver out and Carroll banged up. I don't see the Hawks winning this series. That's going to be really tough for them.
Yeah,
and I think somebody's going to have to. The one way somebody can act in a way that makes me want to murder them in a big win situation is by doing some dirty stuff. So that can happen still. I don't see it from a lot of guys on this team. Bazemore maybe, but even him, I don't think so. I don't see it right now.
This team, I think unlike the Boston Celtics, this team has some class.
Yeah.
My list right now was Teague, Korver, Schroeder, and Baze. Schroeder's getting a little bit in there, but he's just he's like Rondo, but he can hit 3-point shots, but we're still treating him like Rondo.
But
still letting him shoot, shoot away, please.
He's not that good a shooter either.
No, he's not. We're making the right decision there. With Korver injured, this is brutal. I mean, Korver was working his way on the list in game 2. Bunch of big flops, getting away with stuff. He's starting to hit some shots and making me nervous. And I don't know. I wonder if it's just too bad. It's kind of takes the spirit out of the kill list when a guy gets hurt like that.
Yeah, agreed.
But briefly, we were talking about Bazemore last night a little bit. Do we like Bazemore's spunk, or is he just a mark?
For me, against these Cavs teams, he is just a mark.
I don't know. I was feeling a little bit sympathy for him. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I feel sympathy for Marks, but he's clearly overmatched. He's thrust into a role that he shouldn't have been thrust into, and he's trying to keep his attitude up, trying to keep his spirits up. Let me quote from Jason Lloyd's final thoughts column and today's Akron Beacon Journal, which, if you aren't reading his final thoughts after every single game, well, you probably have your priorities straight, but you're missing out.
You probably aren't listening to this podcast.
Probably are not listening to this podcast. But so this is Jason Lloyd saying, he says, quote, "The Hawks are done and they know it. Well, almost know it. Almost all of them know it. I still think we're the better team." And then he cried a little inside.
That was mean, Jason Lloyd.
I was like, ooh, Jason Lloyd's throwing some shade.
I know.
But I think that's also a little bit accurate. Briefly, before we move on to looking at game logical order here and look at game 1 and then game 2, I have a quick theory as to why, beyond the individual players, I have a quick theory for why our kill list. I mean, look, these Atlanta Hawks are a prolific offensive team. They don't have a superstar. They share the ball. They pass. They play a beautiful posture of underappreciated big men and dangerous shot. They're losing to a team of spare parts because the other team has the best player on the planet. How, Matt, are these Hawks not the 1989 to 1993 Cavs?
Yeah, we haven't talked about this yet, Pat. You floated this by email to me. So first of all, they're just starting, right? This is the first year they've really been any good. Last year they were okay, and Horford was hurt, and they added some pieces. So they'd have to sustain this, and I don't know. They've got big free agents after this year, so I don't know if they'll have the time together to do that. Those Cavs teams were thwarted pretty consistently by the Bulls year after year in the playoffs. So I think that'd have to happen a bunch more times.
That's true.
I don't know that there's player-to-player comparison. Like there's no Brad Daugherty or Larry Nance or Hot Rod on this team.
I feel like the two of them, were underappreciated in their day in the same way Millsap and Horford often are. They're both good guys. I mean, obviously Daugherty's a different league of player. He's a true center. He was like a 7-footer, wasn't he? 7'1", something like that.
Sure.
Or was he 6'11"?
Yeah.
Can't remember.
Yeah, he was before his neck surgeries.
Had a bunch of 3-point shooters from Mark Price, Craig Elo, Steve Kerr at one point. We had those defensive stoppers. I feel like we had Gerald Wilkins for part of that run. He was our LeBron stopper. Remember that?
Yes. After we lost Harper, he was going to come back in and be the Jordan stopper. Yeah,
to be the Jordan stopper. Exactly. So anyway, to me, it's like I know. Yeah, exactly. I see the Hawks. It just reminds me too much of them. I think that's why I'll say it. I like the Hawks. I hope they find a way to stay together after this season, and because I feel like I don't know. And look, the Cavs never really played this poorly in the playoffs in their runs, except maybe toward the end. I think we got swept towards the end of our run by the Bulls. That was our last hurrah. Yeah,
we had an ugly one. There was sort of a shot part 2 where Jordan took us out in the last second shot, but in a series that we didn't have any chance. I think it was a sweep shot, wasn't it? I think it was a sweep. Yeah, I think so.
Oh God. Oh man. God. Just that memory just made me depressed. Let's talk about let's talk about some victories. Let's talk about fun.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. So game 1. Game 1 recap. I mean, what was the big key for you? Actually, before we get to the real recap, let me recap it this way. If you just give me 1 second, please.
On your TV, relevant, till June. So rise.
My AV skills are not up to par tonight, but I have to start. Any conversation with JR has to start with that awesome fan song by Milford Jerome. Oh, hey, I didn't talk about this last podcast, but I mentioned to you before. Or did I mention the podcast? Did I mention
it? You did mention it.
I did mention it. I just want to make sure that Milford got a shout out. We'll put a link to that too. I'll put a link to both after we're done with this. I'll leave a bunch of comments with this stuff in there. But all right, so I call this J.R. Smith's NBA Jam game.
That is accurate.
Not reproducible, but always a threat. I mean that really was the game in a nutshell. But let's talk about JR to begin with. I don't know if you saw this yesterday, but not yesterday, 2 days ago, I think. Dave McMenamin got this priceless quote from JR after the game.
It's so good.
Saying, quote, "I'd rather take a contested shot than an open shot any day." It's kind of boring when you take open shots. Oh God, I love JR.
So patently absurd, but I think the TNT guys actually debated this before the game last night.
They did? What did they say?
I mean, what do you think they said? Well, that's crazy talk. Of course, it's better to take an open shot. You should take. I couldn't believe that they bid. Yeah, that they bid on that quote. That is JR being JR.
Yeah. Well, but
I love it.
I think the quote belies what has made him such an asset for the Cavs, even when he's not on fire. I mean, look, the truth is the reason why people believe that is because JR used to play that way every game. That was my worst fear when we traded for him. Instead of passing the open man, he contested 20-footers, the worst shot in the game, just because it was more fun or because he was feeling it or whatever. But ever since joining the Cavs, he has been incredibly disciplined. Almost all of his shots are like wide open threes.
Mm-hmm.
His junk ball is only a bailout option with 4 seconds left on the clock, and it works. Like, that's great. We want a guy who can hit those shots, and we only want him taking it 4 seconds. I mean, that's what's amazing about his transformation is that he's actually locked down and become I mean, dare I say it, an efficient player. And I mean, even after the game, he was saying that he realized he wasn't taking ideal shots, but it was just tough to pass when he's feeling like that. And he's absolutely right.
Yes.
You know, it's like a winning streak. You know, you don't mess with it. Like Crash Davis and Bull Durham would totally approve. You know, when you're on fire, you just keep fucking shooting the ball until you miss.
No, I agree with you. And he didn't do it the next game. He clearly in game 2, he wasn't feeling it in the same way. And listen, I don't care what threes he takes if he's making them.
Absolutely.
And as long as he has the discipline not to just go out and chuck when he can't hit anything, and in general he has since he's been with the Cavs, then he has my faith.
He had a couple of moments towards the end of his fire streak. I think in the end of the third quarter. I think no, it's the beginning of the fourth quarter when LeBron was sitting, when he was dribbling around the perimeter, trying to find any kind of like sliver of opening to launch up a crazy ass three. And it had shades of that LeBron 48 special, like with the way LeBron was just taking these terrible, terrible shots, like forcing these terrible shots and then just draining them.
Yep.
Like that was the last time I'd seen something like that and was expecting it to go in. That was just awesome.
It's a great play he made though is, I think evidence that he's not just a chucker is during that stretch he had the pump fake where he drove into the lane and then dished for the alley-oop, I think to TT.
And that was the play that got LeBron off his seat.
Yes.
Going crazy. That was awesome.
So
go ahead.
He's great. More evidence of that.
Absolutely. And speaking of LeBron, quickly, I think he's the other key to that game one. I mean, look, he played a great game going up to that point when JR went off, and then he came in to finish the game, and he nearly single-handedly blew it because, as Zach Lowe put it in his piece yesterday, he reverted to caveman 1-on-5 basketball because he just knew Millsap couldn't guard him. So, he couldn't guard him, but he can apparently goad LeBron into bad basketball decisions.
Except he could guard him. That's what I never bought. If he couldn't guard him, LeBron would have gotten by him, gotten to the rim, and done all the things that he was doing in the next game. He contained that. I thought that.
That's true. He funneled LeBron into help really expertly. I think. I mean, that was why LeBron was, and that's why LeBron kept doing it. I felt like. I mean, aside from the fact that Millsap was giving him a little shoulder in the chest here and there, which is great basketball on Millsap's part. He was like getting in LeBron's head a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's funny. Like I have a lot of respect for Millsap, and we'll talk about what TT's done to him. I think more in when we recap game 2. But anyway, the point being, what I thought what was promising though was immediately after the game, he was saying, just like JR was saying the right things. He was calling himself out, saying he was, you know what, it didn't happen in game 2. That was encouraging. He played game 2 completely differently.
No, I like that a lot. He referred to it as nonsense. He took blame. Said, I let them back into this game, which he did. That's exactly what I was saying while I was watching the game. I was really glad to see him take ownership of that and admit the mistake, and he did not make it again in game 2.
Totally.
And he was great. He was great before that point. Before he started doing that in the fourth quarter, I was extremely happy with this game.
He was brilliant that whole game, getting guys involved, scoring, the same stuff he did in game 2. Of course, he did have the dunk at the end, which was just awesome.
With Kyle Korver in the Tayshaun Prince role of cowering.
Yeah. The business decision.
Yes.
as Grantland called it.
Yeah.
Took one look. It was like, I got to make a business decision. Got to think about the future.
So can I call out a couple other things that stood out for me in that game, Pat?
Yeah, please, absolutely. Yeah, go for it.
So one is JR got a lot of attention, and he should have. I don't think it was an outlier game for us from a three-point perspective because while JR was on fire, I'm looking at the box score. Shumpert 0 for 3 from 3, Jones 0 for 3, Ellie 0 for 4, LeBron 0 for 1. As a team, we just shot 38.5%, which is about what I expect us to shoot. So JR went nuts, and I think Blatt said this after the game. JR had an outlier game, but the game before, game 6 against the Bulls, Delly had an outlier game. And as long as enough of those guys are stepping up and everybody's doing what they're supposed to do outside of that, it works. Exactly. So I don't feel like it gave me confidence right after that game that this wasn't just that went right, but a lot of other things went wrong. And I felt like they would balance out. And we'll talk about game 2. They did.
Exactly. The odds tend to, the odds tend to balance out, regression to the mean and all that. But our mean has a bunch of guys in this roster who can get hot and drain a bunch of threes. So that's a nice consistency to have. If one guy's being shut down or one guy's having an off night, there's at least 3 other guys that might get hot. So
yeah,
that's sustainable.
The rebounding, this is not a secret. You hear everybody talking about this, but we are just killing them on the board.
It's just, yeah, wow.
That and 3-point shooting are the 2 differences in the series right now. Because the overall, the Hawks are shooting about what the Cavs have shot in terms of overall field goal percentage. They've been terrible from 3-point range, and we are murdering them on the boards.
Yep, that's the series in a nutshell.
And a lot of the Hawks' bad shooting, some of it has been them just missing shots. But I actually think we've done a really nice job on Corver. He started to get off a little in game 2, but done a really nice job. Just not letting the guys we don't want to have open threes have open threes.
Yeah, and it's funny. Zach Lowe was talking about how much he loved our defensive plan, that we were just daring them to shoot jumpers. Even though, which sounds crazy because they're a great jump shooting team. I saw some stat somewhere where they averaged 1.05 points on jump shots in the regular season per possession. That's fucking good.
But I think a lot of that is predicated on the motion offense and getting people in the right spots and hitting it in rhythm and then hitting them. And we're really taking them out of that game.
Absolutely,
very impressive defensive game plan from the Cavs and very well executed.
Yeah, and totally unexpected. Not totally unexpected. The fun thing is, even watching the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, you would watch the Cavs go through these bursts like this, but they would have those lapses in concentration that would let the team go off on they would let the Bulls go off, the Bulls in their offense go off on a 20-0 run.
Yeah,
that could happen at any point. So it's sort of incredible how much more focused they've gotten. But I guess not that surprising that repetition. It's like this is the 3rd series they're in now. So it makes sense that they're sort of starting to lock down and be consistent. All right. If you anything else you want to share on game 1 before we move on?
No, we can keep going.
But one more thing. I think I'd like to start a new series that you proposed called "What the Ref." What's the right cadence for this? What the ref? What the ref? What the ref? Sorry, let's get that better this time. What the ref? A special What the Ref on moving screens. And this is more evident in game 1 than game 2. Just to set up the segment a little bit, the segment is explicitly not to complain about getting hosed by the refs, as I love to do and as my dad loves to do, but rather just to point out the huge problem for both teams when refs are inconsistent about applying the rules. It's sort of like an umpire strike zone. It's not about the exact strike zone that matters as much as the consistency of the calls.
Yes.
And look, I love to bitch about refs. I've tried to hold myself back. My sister Katie has gotten so consistent watching Browns games, to saying this game is fixed and the Mafia. She said it once during a game against the Seattle Seahawks, and we turned to her saying, what, the Seattle Mafia is making this game? But anyway, getting to this week's illegal screen, what the ref concept. The Hawks got called for 4 illegal screens, I think, is what I heard in game 1. And there's a lot of chatter in my Twitter feed about this being ridiculous. And that the general sentiments being that players are working too hard in the playoffs to make such ticky-tack calls. But here's the problem. The way the Hawks were setting screens throughout every single possession, you might as well at all if you're not going to call that. This is not like they didn't have their feet set or they were leaning a little bit. They were literally moving left to right 5 steps at a time with their hands out, holding people.
Yeah.
These were very egregious moving picks. You couldn't have a more textbook violation of the rule, like an in-your-face aggressive violation of the rule.
Actually, Pat, I think you could have a more aggressive in-your-face violation of the rule, and it's what Joakim Noah did throughout the entirety of the last series, which is why this is already sticking in my craw and why I wanted to raise it. Is his picks were unbelievably illegal, transparently so. He was moving actively around somebody as they tried to get around him and grabbing them with his hands. And what's so galling to me about this is that at the beginning of the season and even through the All-Star game, they really were calling picks. That was there's always point of emphasis calls that the refs are supposed to be focusing on every year, and that was one of them this year. And they really called a ton of them. The Cavs certainly were called for them, but not in an inappropriate way. There was just a consistent call that was made, and that just has gone out the window in the playoffs. I think I'm especially sensitive to it because calling back to the '09 series against the Magic.
Yes. Yes.
They set crazy illegal screens that freed up their guys for 3-point shots that really hurt us. So this is a long-standing gripe of mine, and I was really upset about it in the Bulls series, and it was so weird to see it called like that against Millsap in particular, right? He had 2 or 3 called on him in game 1, which I agree with you, they were egregious, but why now is something I don't understand, and I can understand why Hawks fans would be upset about it too.
Absolutely. I mean, to be clear, I'm not saying the Hawks were getting away with it, before, because the thing is, every single possession they were doing that. They got called 4 times, and those were obviously very key possessions they got called, but they also got a ton of points off those illegal screens throughout the game. And I'm not saying the Hawks were getting away with it, so to speak. They were taking advantage of the way the refs were calling it. Like they were intentionally setting illegal screens because they knew they weren't going to be called. Right. And I saw a bunch of smart writers in my Twitter feed saying, "Look, screens aren't going to be called, in the playoffs, so it makes sense to do it that way." The Cavs just need to start running more moving picks. We need to start setting illegal screens to get our guys open.
I was going to say, I don't think we take advantage of it hardly at all.
We don't, and until we do, we're at a disadvantage. But here again, getting back to things, I get why the Hawks were frustrated because they started out not calling those picks at all, letting them do it. So no wonder the Hawks are upset at those 4 turnovers. They're like, "Oh, what? Now you're calling it? But you said that was, if that was illegal, what was wrong with that other pick? Or sorry, if those picks were illegal, then what was wrong with this?" I think it goes both ways, but at the same time, I just think it's bad for basketball, even in the playoffs, to allow people to cheat that brazenly. Like, I get not calling the leaning shoulder, which they call in the regular season all the time. If you lean to try and catch a guy, right, to slow him down. Yep. Or if your feet aren't entirely set, like they call it like a charge a little bit, you have to have your feet set to set the pick. So if you set the pick too early and the guy is able to run around and you can't move to block him, like I get not calling that. I get that. But if you're not going to call it when these guys are literally running with the guy, I mean, during the game, even yesterday, there were shots where a guy was screening the guy, literally holding his arms out, and the guy was trying to get around like a wrestler.
Yep.
It was like a wrestling match. He was like holding him in place. Like apparently you can also hold guys. That also happened in the Orlando series in '09. They would not just set moving picks, but they would also grab guys' jerseys to slow them down, which was so frustrating. They weren't calling that. But yeah, I mean, is it too much to ask refs to consistently call the egregious moving picks really early in the game to set the tone? Is that too much to ask?
Apparently it is. And
apparently.
I have been disappointed by the officiating. And now this is not, I will take off my Homer cap because this is just all the non-Cav series that I've watched. I think the officiating's been bad. I mean, it's easy to gripe about NBA officiating. It's bad. Everybody likes to do it. It's been really bad this year.
Yep.
Really bad.
I agree. I feel like it's been exceptionally bad, but I haven't done an analysis like, one last thing before I go. One thing at least we're not doing, I read, I think it was on SB Nation, a bloggable after Game 4, Game 5, literally did a breakdown of every bad call in the game from a homer's perspective. It was, I looked at it, I saw it, I just scrolled through it. It was so long. This guy wasted an entire day of his life from Homer's perspective when those calls were just bad all around for both teams.
Yeah.
So as I said, I often say to you, I feel like I'm a little too obsessed with the Cavs. I spend too much time reading. That made me feel a lot better about my life choices. All right, let's move on to Game 2, or as I like to call it, or I hope we will be calling it. Next time we talk, Ender's Game. What were the big keys to that game for you?
So, this sort of touches on what we talked about in Game 1, right? It was the same thing. We killed them on the boards again. We shot a little better from 3-point range. We were 38.5 from the first game. We were 40% last time. They were a little better this game, but still only 23%. So held down their 3-point shooting well and murdered them on the boards. Yeah. And that is the game, my friends. LeBron was fantastic. Didn't do the nonsense he did at the end of the last game. You can read this in all the coverage of it, right? He got himself going early, then spent the second and third quarters just dishing assists all over the place. Guys knocked down shots.
And it's funny, the TNT crew was saying, like, why are you double teaming him? Why are you double teaming him? It's like, well, because he scored the crap out of them in the first quarter. So they started alone. He's just going to score on those guys.
And the one guy they have on that team that could guard him was hobbling around out there, admirably, but hobbling.
Yeah, and let's talk about that for a second. I mean, how on earth did Carroll play that game? That did not seem like a wise decision for his career. I mean,
no, the sports orthopedist in our group of friends, Dr. Massini, immediately said he was going to be out for the playoffs, based on what he'd seen there. I was shocked that he was back for the game. He played the most minutes on the team.
Did he really? Jeez.
Yeah, he played 34 minutes. Next highest was Corver at 32, who also got – that was a whole weird thing. I thought that Budenholzer was doing that game was he played – the Hawks bench is notoriously bad, right? Their starting five is really good, and I feel like any lineups where they start to get their bench involved get just progressively worse. And he was subbing his guys out really early in that game. And I follow somebody on Twitter – can't remember who it was, Ethan Strauss maybe, who said he's saving them for the fourth quarter. He thinks it's going to be tight down the stretch. The Cavs will get tired because their bench is so thin, and his starters will have a lot of energy. But that was the plan. Bad plan, man.
Backfired. Yeah, bad plan. Speaking of Coach Bud, I saw somebody the other day do a great Coach Bud lookalike. Gil from The Simpsons.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Well, Gil, I just need this job.
He looks like that in this series, too. Just no answers. Everything he's trying is not working. He's got a flop sweat on him constantly.
And the way he talks, he's got the kind of strangled voice a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a little more successful than Gil, let's be honest. But that was a pretty mean comparison, but it was hard not to see it. But, yeah, seriously, the metrics support this, too. Like, I mean, the Hawks starting five net rating is like world beater good. It's crazy. But they only play they don't play a lot of minutes together, which is also crazy.
No, it seemed really weird to me. It's a playoffs, it's a must-win game if you're the Hawks. Yeah. You don't want to go down to whatever's going on with the other team, and to not have your guys play those kind of minutes is weird. Very weird to me.
No, and here's the other thing that was stood out to me, and jump in if you have something else that stands out to you, but you told me early on, you texted all of our friends early on. Kyrie's out, DeMar Carroll's in. We have no business winning this game. We have no business winning this game. I kept texting you guys, we're up 5 points. I have absolutely no idea how. I mean, the answer is defense, but like it just felt weird. Like it didn't look like we were winning.
No, it was so those lineups they had in when LeBron rested, were so weird.
It's like I said, I feel like the 2012 Cavs have teleported into the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, it was just bizarre.
I was expecting to see Byron. I was expecting to see Byron Scott on the sidelines with his arms folded, scowling.
Yeah, thinking about playing golf.
Oh my God!
It was really impressive. I thought even after the first half, I figured that the Hawks were going to catch fire and come back, and we just were not going to have the firepower to keep up with them. And boy, was I wrong. That's the most impressive win I think I've seen in the LeBron era, honestly.
Absolutely.
Before
absolutely.
Early period or late period, whatever time he's been with the Cavs, that group of players to play like that and totally dominate that Hawks team was.
That's definitely a signature performance by him. Having it was great. Also, that game having a mic the whole game, you could just you get such an appreciation for how goddamn smart he is, and it's just like it also makes it ridiculous. The whole LeBron calls plays. Well, fucking yeah,
of course
he does. In the world, I would want that guy calling plays on the court.
Yeah,
that guy sees shit. And Jason Lloyd was talking about this too, about how LeBron can see things. And Blatt said after the post game saying LeBron can see things ahead of time. Everyone's joking, oh, LeBron's so clairvoyant. No. LeBron sees how they're defending him and goes, oh, this play's gonna work. And he'll do it. He'll say, I'm gonna get Mozgov on this lob jam next time down the court, and he does it. It becomes his detriment sometimes too. I think when you see him pounding the ball too much or making these bad passes, bad plays, that's where he thinks he sees something and doesn't. And I think that's what that is when he does that. But man, when he's on mentally, it's a sight to see. But yeah, so impressive.
The other star performer here is TT.
Beasting.
despite his troubles from the line, which actually made the game a little bit closer in the first half than it should have been. We should have, I don't know, 2 or 3 more points then. So nasty on the boards, and his defense he's completely outplayed Paul Millsap throughout the series.
Unbelievable, too.
Shut him down. The block on Bazemore was awesome.
So good.
Then everybody recognized immediately that it was a clean block too. That Weber went so nuts watching it was very satisfying.
Tristan's reaction to the bad foul call was so perfect. The instant with the foul was called, he just turned, raised his hand up to the fans, and smiled like, that was the fucking best block you've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
And just walked around, smiled, and it was like, no big deal. It was great. Look, it helps when you're up that big to smile about it, but that was a great reaction. It sort of reminds me about how he was reacting when he was getting those cheap shots at the end of Game 6 against the Bulls. He just got right up. First he got upset, then he got right up and said, "Nope, go play basketball. Let's go play basketball."
Now his attitude is great.
I think I saw this too. Someone was talking. I think it may have been Jason Lloyd again, pointing out how much more communicative Tristan has been in the backcourt on defense. In a way that he hasn't been before, which I didn't know. But it's just because that's what defense is. Defense is constantly calling, talking, shifting because you don't have eyes in the back of your head, but your teammates do. And when you're watching more than just your guy, that's, as a team, you then got 10 eyes on the court. It's great. So, defense, Shump, which we haven't, we played him at the top to honor him, but we didn't talk about him enough. I mean, his clutch shooting, his defense, it's funny. He's great. I don't know what else to say. I shump him so much.
Yeah, it's so funny to think about this team, right? Like at the beginning of the season, I wouldn't have been shocked if he told me the Cavs were in the Eastern Conference Finals and up 2-0. But if he told me they were doing it with no Love, no Kyrie, and defense first, basically, I wouldn't have believed you.
I wouldn't believe it either. Going into the season with all of our guys, my attitude going in was, if we don't make the Eastern Conference Finals, it is a huge failure and terrible. I don't think that's a problem. I think we are gonna make it, but we could always choke. We could always choke the Bulls. But with the Hawks, I'm pretty sure we're going to beat them with our full assortment. With Love and Kyrie and LeBron. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure we're going to beat them. But I could also see I need to see us play them well. I wasn't sure we could actually beat a team. Started playing in the playoffs in the Bulls, so that was that changed things a bit too. And I always thought finals time or whatever. I'm not gonna talk about finals. We'll worry about that when we get to it. If we get to it, which I don't know. It's feeling less and less like an if at this point. But I'm a Cleveland fan, so
yeah. Let's not jinx this, Pat.
No, I'm not. I'm always prepared for us to blow it. And I'll talk about that more when we preview games 3 and 4. But let's move on from game 2. Before we get to the preview, there's a couple more things I want to talk about.
One thing, Pat.
Go ahead.
That's worth pointing out that was so weird. And I think I saw a GIF of this in somebody's recap of the game, was when LeBron sort of went haywire at the end of the third quarter. They had blocked. I think James Jones blocked a shot that was after the buzzer, and then LeBron sort of took it and smacked it against the board and grabbed it and smacked it against the board. It was like this volleyball against the glass. It was so crazy. It was very KG-esque. Yeah, really. And I think it was just that he was so amped up and excited about their defense in the game that he just went bonkers. And that was really exciting to see.
I absolutely agree. Because also, like a couple minutes earlier was that awesome TT block that got called a foul that everyone's going crazy about. And I could be wrong. I feel like he also no. I feel like that monster block on a Millsap post up was earlier in the game. I can't remember.
Yeah, it was earlier.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that was earlier.
Still, I loved it. I loved it.
It's great to see him, because this was the criticism of him throughout the year, right? That he was in what did he call his mode? Chill mode.
Chill mode.
And not totally engaged, and he took a lot of crap for that, and I get why. On the other hand, if he was in chill mode throughout the season so that he could be in this mode now, then it's the right call. It's no different than Pop having so many Spurs in games throughout the year so that they have it now. This is when it counts, and if he's going to play like this and be able to go so berserk, then
absolutely,
I am all for it. It was great to see.
Yeah, I 100% agree. All right, moving on. to this piece that you pointed out to me that I had missed. It was a great piece in Grantland on Timofey Mozgov. A little profile on him, which again I'll post in the comment section beneath our podcast. This was just a fantastic piece, man. Why don't you start? Because you found this first.
I loved it. I mean, I don't want to spoil it for people. They should go read it. Mozgov is a character. We talked about players' wives last week, yeah. Or last week, that he got married to a Russian woman at a drive-through chapel in Las Vegas. It's so funny. He's got a clown school Instagram account, and then the stories about him growing up. His dad was like a really good professional handball player.
That's right.
And Mozgov, which is sort of common. I think Dirk Nowitzki's dad was a really good handball player too. That's just something we don't understand in America.
Interesting note: Becca's grandpa, or Becca's mother's father, Murray Friedman, was a big-time handball player on the courts of Brooklyn.
Yeah, it's fair. I just don't understand that sport. But anyway, so many great quotes. I said we should just each pick out one or two that we liked, Pat.
You go
my
first.
first one is early on in his life when he's just figuring out that maybe he should play basketball because he's starting to get a little tall. They say before long he realized his life would be basketball or bust. Quote from Mozgov, I didn't do shit in school. I was so bad.
I was so bad.
I love the idea of picturing him in a classroom, just getting agitated, having no idea what to do, sitting in a desk that's way too small for him, breaking everything that he touches. So funny to me.
What was that Cardell Jones tweet that got him in trouble? The first one?
Oh, I didn't come here to play school. I came here to play football.
I feel like that's going through his mind.
Yeah.
Mozgov didn't come here to play school. He came here to play basketball.
And then my other favorite, unless you have one that you got teed up.
No, you go first. I want to make sure I don't cover yours. Go with yours.
My other favorite is that, so they tell the story. He went to play basketball, and then his family moved for a little bit, and he grew up a little more, and then came back to St. Petersburg to play at their Olympic school. And coaches who hadn't seen Mozgov since he departed hardly recognized him. One said, "This is Mozgov? He was small as fuck 2 years ago."
I love the casual swearing. I feel less bad about how often I dropped F-bombs in the first podcast. Although I've cleaned my mouth a little bit.
You fit right into the Russian basketball program, Pat.
I should do a blat sabbatical. A blatical. A sabbatical. The ones that caught me, I'm going to go to my third one first because it just reminds me of the Russia stuff. So they talk about the Brew Garden commercials he did, which if anyone hasn't seen them yet, I mean, you just have to see these. The commercials has him standing in front of a plate of food. He just throws them off the table and says, "Get that weak stuff out of here." And then goes through his spiel. But apparently, Brew Garden's Liz Haynes, the well-endowed waitress that was in the second ad that they did together, her quote of him was, "He was really hungry. He kept eating all the food and apologizing for that." I mean, the picture I have is like the secret to Timo is that he lives life and plays basketball like he might be sent back to Russia at a moment's notice.
Yes. There's a gulag waiting for him somewhere.
I mean, I know he visits home all the time, but it's like he thinks someone might take it all away from him in a flash.
Yes.
This food, it might not be here in 5 seconds. Oh, it's so good. There's so many other good quotes. I would read them both, but you know what? Honestly, just read the damn thing. They're so good. I'll do one more. David Griffin quoting LeBron when they all met Timofey Mozgov for the first time. He says, "Timo walked in and everyone stood straight up. And LeBron's like, that's a big motherfucker." That's a great compliment. All right, briefly before we get to the preview, I had one quick thing I want to clear off the deck. One thing that's on my mind. I've been seeing a lot of random tweets, not from people I respect, but people are saying it. A lot of chatter saying, "Boy, man, we are really better off with TT instead of Kevin Love." And I just stop it. Right? Am I right?
Yeah.
Stop it. This is ridiculous. Stop it.
It's not either or.
It's not either or. TT is fucking awesome, but Love is a max player. I mean, for God's sake, I mean, we got criticized for this last week when I mentioned that TT might be a max player. I'm not saying he is a max player, but there are people who are saying he might get a max offer from the Cavs. I agree. He's got leverage now with this playoffs, but he doesn't have a lot of leverage because no one else I don't think is offering him a max contract. And also, if they do, fine. They offer a max contract, then we can match it and we're set.
Yeah.
But whatever. The point being, we still really need Kevin Love. TT will not replace Kevin Love. They are compliments. We need his floor spacing. God damn it, I am still so fucking pissed at Kelly Olynyk. That motherfucker.
No,
I mean, how well we're playing right now. How well we're playing right now with fucking Kevin Love. Oh my God, it's so fucking annoying.
I agree with you. It is not too far removed. TT is better than Matthew Dellavedova, but it is not too far removed from saying, "Hey, we've got Delly. Let's just maybe we should trade Kyrie for something else," right? Like that's
No, TT is a very great one-dimensional or two-dimensional player, right? He's not a three-dimensional guy like Kevin Love who can rebound, shoot, and post up. So anyway, but also just by the way, just before we go, assuming Gilbert signs off on the tax bill and Love resigns with this, I mean, can you imagine this front court next season? Kevin Love, Timo Mozgov, Tristan Thompson, and Anderson Varejao.
Love it. I love it.
All your rebounds all belong to us.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know how we lose the rebounding battle with those four guys. All right, so let's move on to the final part of this. Let's see if anything else to add to that brief interlude.
No, I think that's it. It was, the one thing while we're talking about Mozzie, it was nice to see his jump shot start falling in game 2. That was something he'd shown flashes of when he first came to the Cavs, and had sort of gone away from it and had looked awful in the playoffs prior to this. He was missing badly. So if he can drop in a couple jump shots a game, that's good for our spacing and just good for points. We still points are hard to come by for us, and whatever we can squeeze out of him is really helpful. And if that's a couple 15-footers a game, that's really great.
Very, very big Z-esque, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very nice. All right, so game 3 and 4. Game 3 is Sunday night, tomorrow, 8:30 p.m. I think the big question, the only question for the remainder of the series at this point, especially with the terrible news that Korver's out, is do we sit Kyrie for the rest of the series? I don't even know if it's a choice. It doesn't look like he's healthy enough to play. And I feel like we kind of I honestly don't know if it's a choice. I think we ought to I think they have to just sit him the rest of the series.
Yeah, this gets into some weird stuff that I'm not equipped to fully answer here, which is like the team aspect of playing through injury, right? You hear, if you listen to Jalen Rose ever, he talks a lot about this, right? Like you're being hurt versus being injured, and what you can play through, and you need to gut through that, and your teammates expect you to go through that stuff. And I intellectually, I guess I understand that, but I don't fully know where Kyrie is in that cycle. I don't know how his teammates feel about it. The feeling I get is not that guys are like, he's being a huge wimp and not gutting this out. I think he's done that throughout the Bulls series and the first game here. And it seems like it's just reached a point where it's too much. And on top of that, there's nobody to hide him, at least previously. Maybe that might change now, but there wasn't a good place to hide him against the Hawks on defense. No, and they went small with that Schroeder and Teague backcourt, where either of those guys were getting by him no problem. And even chasing Korver around all those screens, that would be the first place you'd hide him, and you can't do that. He was really a liability. I think that's one of the reasons they sat him at the end of game 1.
Mm-hmm.
They just couldn't.
Yeah. They couldn't play
much. So whatever it is, if he's really too hurt to play, or he's just so hurt that his play is compromised enough that it's not worthwhile. Listen. We talked about being Cavs fans and how nerve-wracking that is, and I am neurotic enough that I worry when we get up 3-0 in a series that we're gonna be the first team to ever lose, having been up 3-0 in a series. That is our fate. That's the kind of thing that would happen to us. So that's how deep and pathological my issues are. With Court, I think you got to think about it now. I don't think you play him tomorrow night.
I'm with you. I think only because the biggest reason being I've seen what he can offer out there even before his injured knee. If all he can really offer us is spot up threes, That's pretty much it right now. He can't play defense. He can't really penetrate the defense that effectively. And whenever he penetrates the defense, he's putting his knee at more risk. If all you do is offer spot up threes, James Jones can do that. I love Kyrie, but I think we got to sit him. We can't really think about playing him until it gets to an elimination game if it comes to that in the series somehow. I think we have to try and rest him up some more, because playing him now anyways is going to be you'll get half of Kyrie. I feel like every day that goes by, you get more of Kyrie when you need him. Right. So being up 2-0 at home with a formula with the Hawks as wounded as we are, I think we got to like our chances of being able to close this thing out without Kyrie and hope that he gets right in time for the finals.
Yeah. It makes me nervous. I got to say, it makes me nervous. Charles Barkley going into the visiting locker room after the game and telling the last reporter on to turn out the lights because they're not coming back.
I had this in my notes. I had this in my notes too. He also is punking ATL fans. He was talking. Every Phillips Arena worker he saw as he was walking out, he would say, "See ya, not seeing you next year." Like, it's just so he was going out of his way to troll ATL fans. He's also doing his best to jinx us. So thank you, Charles. Fuck you.
Yeah, that stuff. I hear it and listen. Everything points to that, right? The Cavs have more or less dominated these first two games. Mm-hmm. The Cavs are certainly banged up, but have shown they can deal with it. The Hawks are starting to miss some critical pieces here. I still feel like the Hawks, just what we talked about in the last podcast, Pat, before this series, that they're capable of playing at a really high level. And maybe it's just that the Cavs defense is so good that it stopped them, but I feel like they could go nuts from 3-pointers per game and get their act together. And our offense is still really capable of drying up and being nothing for a little bit. And so I'm still nervous. It'd be foolish to say that you think the Cavs are going to lose this series at this point. And I do think it's probably the smart thing to sit Kyrie. And if you can get him 2 full weeks of rest before the finals start, that's a great thing. But there's there's that little part of me, Pat, that's a Clevelander that is waiting for the only in Cleveland thing to happen here. So I will always be on guard against that. That said, I'm willing to put it in its place and do what seems like the smart thing here, which is try to cut one this way. That second game was basically Kyrie insurance, right? You have a game to screw around with at home.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, the risk, of course, is say we sit Kyrie and it gets them going, and they win a couple of games, and then by the time we bring Kyrie back to stop the bleeding, they're feeling it now and they're playing well. So I get that's the risk, but my problem is this is why I still have to sit Kyrie. It's not about let's just try and steal another game with Kyrie. It's like, I'm sorry, I don't think that we're better with Kyrie on the court. If in game one, I think he's just not. He can't play the level. For example, I don't even know that the Hawks should be putting DeMarre Carroll out there. I don't think DeMarre Carroll was doing them any favors. Maybe he was with the metrics. I don't know, but I was watching him out there, and I was like, this guy can't do it. It's just like Kyrie. He's got to adjust his 3-point shot because he doesn't have lift on his knee anymore. Mm-hmm. It feels funny. He's playing weird because his knee's fucked up. He shouldn't be playing. I feel like Kyrie shouldn't be playing. They just got to get right, and both teams just got to kind of gut it out. But here are the notes that I left before I realized that Kyle Korver was out too, which definitely makes it a steeper hill for the Hawks to climb. But here's why I don't think a sweep is guaranteed. I mean, all of the things that we're saying right now about the Cavs over the Hawks could have been said about the Houston Rockets in round 2 with the Clippers. I mean, they were beaten by the Clippers without Chris Paul, almost lost a second game without Chris Paul.
Yep.
Right. They almost went down 2-0 at home against a Chris Paul-less Clippers. And the Clippers only have like a 6-man rotation.
Yeah, they're thinner than we are.
Yeah, exactly. And they were down 3-1. No one gave them a chance. They were down nearly 20 points in the third quarter of an elimination game. I went to sleep looking forward to Eclipse Warriors Armageddon series in the WCF. Sounds like a World Championship Wrestling.
Yeah, for sure it does.
Sorry. But then Josh Smith goes off a step-back threes while James Harden sat out against the 6-man Clippers rotation. Like, that makes no sense on any planet of basketball that happened, and then the Clips were done in Game 7. I mean, that can happen. I mean, I felt it stronger when, Corver was still there, but like these guys can get really crazy hot, and we don't have enough offense really to keep up with it if they go Nova on our defense. Because look, our defense is predicated on giving them those jumpers, right?
Yes.
And living with it. If they start nailing those or getting super hot, yeah, they'll beat us. I could see us easily losing at least a game. And I don't think it's guaranteed it's a sweep, but we certainly do have it in us to pull off a sweep naturally, as everyone's saying. The second reason why a sweep is not guaranteed is Cleveland.
Yeah.
Just never forget, Major League 2 is a terrible movie and a terrible sequel. But it's not for nothing that its climactic storyline was the Tribe taking a 3-0 lead in the ALCS and then dropping the next 3 to be on the doorstep of an all-time epic.
Yes.
That was a very Cleveland storyline. Nothing.
Ignominy is right around the corner, Pat, at all times.
Exactly. Defeat from the jaws of victory.
So I'm looking at the Hawks roster right now, though, and without Corver, they have an interesting decision to make, right?
Yeah.
Did they slot Bazemore, and assuming Carroll continues to go, and I guess that's
now they have to play him.
Forward.
Yeah.
Do they slot Bazemore in at the shooting guard to start, or? And I think that this is what they might do: is play do the super small backcourt with Schroeder and Teague starting, and just see what kind of trouble that can give us.
Yeah, Sheldon Mack? Was that was playing when the Corver went out?
Shelvin Mack,
excuse me.
Yeah.
Sheldon Brown's what I'm thinking of. Anyway, Shelvin Mack played pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
He had that nice clever drive deep into the baskets, let JR's momentum take him out of the play, and then just put up a layup.
Mm-hmm.
He played pretty well. So, and also, that's something you have to underestimate is that the Hawks certainly feel like their backs against the wall in the same way the Cavs did in Game 4. I feel like.
Well, this is a big test for them, right? This is.
Yeah, they gotta feel like, look, their season rest in this next game. No one's come back from 3-0, so they're just gonna go all out in Game 3, and Game 3 could decide. I see the Hawks coming out and taking an early lead, and then we'll just see if the Cavs can clamp down, or if the Hawks can ride a positive wave out. That's sort of what I see happening. But and I think we'll pull it out. But Cleveland.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting. That small backcourt has the potential to give us a hard time. And honestly, that's probably even more reason to sit Kyrie if he can't, because he cannot stay in front of those two guys, and you need Deli and Shump to try to do that.
Exactly. Going back to my preseason keys to the series, which I think were less sophisticated than yours, which were predicated on rebounding and three-point shooting. Mine were, again, we need either one of 2 or 3 things: LeBron or Kyrie going Nova, the bench mob, someone on the bench mob going Nova, or the playoff Hawks to show up. So far in these 2 games, I
think you've gotten 3 of 3.
3 of 3, exactly. All 3 in all 2 games. So, but honestly, it still only takes, I think, 2 or 3 to win going out. So I like our chances.
Yeah, I think you got to feel pretty good right now. I said Cavs in 6. I don't think I want to pick a sweep, even though that seems most likely. So I think I'll revise the Cavs in 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I said Cavs in 6. The playoff Hawks showed up, and they've showed up so far. But with also the injury and also just how we're playing, if we keep this up, that'll be my new caveat. I like to give predictions with caveats, so I have an excuse when it goes wrong.
Of course, that is the coward's
way. If we keep this up, well, I have nothing if not a playoff. I have nothing if not a playoff sports coward. If the Cavs keep this up, I see us winning in 5, which is that one game is for Cleveland. It's just Cleveland.
Yes.
We're going to drop one game because we're Cleveland.
It's always good to bake that in the cake for us.
Yeah, exactly. You got to bake that in. We're going to give up at least one game because Cleveland. That was the bank shot game against the Bulls.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. I think that's all I have to say. You?
Nah, I think that's it. Things are feeling good right now. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves and start thinking about the finals. We'll have time to do that if it comes. But looking forward to a good next 2 games, and maybe we'll plan to talk after that. Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think our next Maddie and Patty podcast should come after Game 4, because we'll either know
there either will be some adversity to face by the Hawks, or we'll be talking about something else. So
yeah,
let's try and do this after Game 4, and we'll see where the Cavs are at.
that sounds fantastic, Patty.
All right. Well, we're coming in at a clean. I think we're at a clean hour here. So fan time. I told you, no podcast under my watch is going to go under time.
No, there's no way.
I will ensure that we go long. All right, that does it for the Maddie and Patty podcast. The second episode is in the books. Until next time, number 2. Until next time, this is Maddie and Patty saying, all right, see you, Maddie.
Take care, buddy.